You feel it before you even see it. It is not a sudden explosion, nor a crash that rings in your ears. It is far more insidious. It is a vibration in the air, a shifting of the ground beneath your feet that tells your instincts, long before your brain accepts it, that the laws of reality have broken. It begins in your pocket. Reach down. Feel the paper there. For your entire life. You were taught that those slips of paper meant something. They were a promise, a contract. You traded your sweat, your hours, the missed birthdays, and the aching of your back for that paper, believing it was a vessel that held the value of your sacrifice. But now you are holding a lie. This is the specific, suffocating horror of hyperinflation. It is the realization that the paper you hold is dying while you hold it. It is rotting in your hands. You look at a stack of bills that, 5 years ago, could have bought a house. Today, it might buy a coffee. Tomorrow, it might not even buy the cup. Imagine the confusion. You walk into the market, a place that used to be a center of mundane routine. Now, it is a theater of panic. You see the shopkeeper changing the price tags. He is not doing it monthly or weekly. He is doing it hourly. You hear the click, click, click of the pricing gun, a rhythmic ticking that sounds like a countdown to zero. You find yourself running, physically running, to the counter because you know that by the time you walk those 10 meters, the bread in your hand will cost more than the money in your wallet. This is not just economics. This is a psychological assault. It is the death of mathematics. You feel a profound sense of disorientation. The numbers on the bills get larger, thousands, millions, billions, but your world gets smaller. You are becoming a billionaire of nothing. You carry bricks of cash in a backpack just to buy eggs. You are surrounded by currency, drowning in liquidity. Yet you are starving for value. It is the ancient torture of Tantalus brought to life. Water everywhere, but not a drop to drink. And then comes the great erasure. Think about your savings. That account was your past. It was the accumulation of 20 years of labor. It was your safety net, your children's education, your retirement dream. Now, you log in and watch it evaporate. It hasn't been stolen by a masked bandit. It has been stolen by the very air you breathe. The government didn't kick down your door to take your wealth. They simply printed so much new money that your old money ceased to exist. It is a silent theft, an invisible fire that burns down your house while leaving the walls standing. You look at your bank balance and the number is the same, but the power is gone. You have been robbed of your past. And by extension, you have been robbed of your future. What does that do to a human mind? It breeds a primal, animalistic fear. You start to look at your neighbors differently. The social contract, the invisible glue that holds a civilization together, begins to dissolve. When money dies, trust dies with it. You stop trading, you start hoarding. You stop building, you start scavenging. You see the proudest people you know. Men and women of industry and dignity, digging through refuse, not because they are lazy, but because the system has made their labor mathematically worthless. You feel the weight of the Maduro diet, not a fad, but a slow starvation etched into the ribs of a population. You see the lights go out, literally and metaphorically. The power grid fails, the water stops running, and the darkness feels heavy, like a physical blanket pressing against your chest. But the worst part is the gaslighting. While your stomach rumbles and your savings turn to ash, The voices from the screens, the leaders, the planners, the architects of this ruin, tell you that you are imagining it. They tell you it is a foreign plot. They tell you it is an economic war. They dance on the grave of your prosperity and demand you applaud the rhythm. This creates a cognitive dissonance that fractures the soul. You are living in a tragedy, but you are being forced to watch a farce. This feeling you have right now, this mixture of rage, helplessness, and confusion is not an accident. It is the symptom of a disease. It is the Red Queen's race, where you run faster and faster just to stay in the same place, until your legs give out and you collapse. It is a slow suffocation. But listen closely to me. This pain you feel, this is not just a tragedy of the present. It is the echo of a gunshot that was fired decades ago. You are standing at the impact site of a disaster that has been traveling toward you for generations. You are the victim of a crime scene that spans history. And to understand why you are bleeding, we must stop looking at the wound and start looking for the weapon. But do not be fooled by the face currently on the posters. It is easy to look at Nicolás Maduro, with his bus driver's mustache and his clumsy rhetoric, and label him the architect of this destruction. But he is not. Maduro is merely the executioner. He is the man who flipped the switch on the electric chair, but the trial, the sentence, and the construction of the chair itself happened long before he ever took power. To understand why your money is burning, we must travel back in time. We must trace the bloodline of this disaster. The fuse was lit not in 2013, but in the intoxicating boom of the 1970s. This is the lineage of the Dutch disease. It began when the black sludge beneath the Venezuelan soil was transformed from a resource into a narcotic. The nation became drunk. When the oil prices quadrupled in the 70s, the country was flooded with petrodollars. It was a golden age, or so it seemed. But in the shadows, a cancer was growing. The government, awash in easy money, stopped caring about agriculture. They stopped caring about manufacturing. Why grow coffee or build cars when you can simply stick a straw in the ground and suck up liquid gold? They traded independence for illusion. They allowed the muscles of their economy to atrophy, replacing them with a single, fragile four-drip oil. Then the mutation occurred. Enter 1999. Hugo Chavez, a man of charisma, riding a wave of justifiable anger against an elite that had squandered that wealth. But the cure he offered was more deadly than the disease. Chavez didn't just tax the golden goose, he decided to strangle it. Under the guise of 21st century socialism, the state declared war on the laws of economics. You remember the chants on the television. Expropus, expropriated. It sounded like justice to the crowds. But to the gears of the economy, it was sand. Farms were seized from farmers who knew how to grow, and given to bureaucrats who only knew how to obey. Factories were taken from engineers and handed to loyalists. The invisible hand of the market was chopped off and replaced by the iron fist of the state. But the fatal blow, the decision that guaranteed the starvation of today, happened in 2003 inside PDVSA, the state oil company. In a fit of political rage, the government fired 18,000 highly skilled engineers, geologists, and managers. They gutted the brain of the organism. They replaced experts with party members. For a while, nobody noticed. Why? because oil prices were soaring to $100 a barrel. The high tide hid the rocks. The government spent money like a drunken sailor, funding social programs not with profit, but with the cannibalization of their own infrastructure. They were burning the furniture to heat the house. And then the inevitable happened. The cycle turned. In 2014, the music stopped. The price of oil crashed. Nicolás Maduro, having inherited the throne from the deceased Chavez, found himself standing in the ruins. The mask fell off. The oil revenue vanished, but the bills remained. The farms were barren. The factories were rusted silent. The experts were gone. Maduro looked at the gaping wound in the budget, a deficit the size of a mountain, and he made the final, fatal error. He didn't cut spending. He didn't liberate the market. He turned to the central bank and gave the order, print. He tried to fill the hole with paper. It was an attempt to defy gravity. What started as a ripple of mismanagement in the 1970s became a wave of hubris in the 2000s and has now mutated into a tsunami of hyperinflation. The monster you see today is not an accident. It is the sum total of 50 years of bad math, arrogance, and the delusion that a government can simply command prosperity into existence. The seed was planted decades ago. We are just the ones watching the harvest. History is not a line, it is a circle. It is a carousel of errors that humanity insists on riding over and over again. We suffer from a fatal arrogance, the belief that we are smarter than the dead. We look at the past as a black and white movie, primitive and irrelevant to our modern, digital complexities. We think that because we have smartphones and satellites, the laws of economics no longer apply to us. We are wrong. The scribes of the past screamed this lesson across the centuries, scratching their warnings into parchment and stone, but arrogance made us deaf. Of all the prophets who foresaw the tragedy of Venezuela, none was more precise, more chillingly accurate than the French philosopher Voltaire. In the year 1729, watching the financial machinations of his own era, he wrote a sentence that stands as the tombstone for every failed currency in human history. Paper money eventually returns to its intrinsic value, zero. Let those words sink in. Zero. Voltaire was not guessing. He was observing a fundamental law of nature. He understood that value cannot be dictated by a king, a parliament, or a president. Value is not a decree, it is a relationship. It is trust. When a government prints a piece of paper and says, "This is worth 1 loaf of bread," that is a promise. It is a contract between the state and the citizen. The citizen agrees to work, to sacrifice their finite time on this earth, in exchange for that paper, trusting that the paper will store their energy for later use. Money in its purest form is frozen time. It is the stored energy of your labor. Therefore, when a government, whether it is the revolutionary courts of France in the 1700s, the Weimar Republic of Germany in 1923, or the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela today, decides to print money without creating value, they are not stimulating the economy. They are committing a moral crime. They are unfreezing your time and letting it melt away. They are stealing the hours of your life that you have already spent. The tragedy of Venezuela is that they believed they could outsmart this math. They believed in the magic money tree. But look at the lineage of this lie. Go back to ancient Rome. The denarius was once 95% pure silver. It was the envy of the world. but the emperors, Nero, Commodus, Septimius Severus, wanted to spend more than they earned. They wanted to fund wars and lavish games to keep the populace happy. But they didn't want to raise taxes, because taxes make people angry. So they chose the hidden tax. They clipped the coins. They mixed the silver with cheap copper. 95% became 80%, then 50%, then 5%, by the time the empire collapsed. The currency was worthless junk. The people lost faith, trade ground to a halt, and the Dark Ages descended. Fast forward to revolutionary France. The assignats. The government seized the church lands and issued paper money backed by that land. It sounded solid. It sounded backed by assets. But the temptation was too strong. They printed more, and more, and more. Prices skyrocketed. The government responded not by stopping the printer, but by passing the law of the maximum, price controls. They sent shopkeepers to the guillotine for charging the market rate for bread. Did it work? Did the guillotine lower the price of bread? No. The bread simply disappeared. The shelves went empty. Does this sound familiar? It is the exact script played out in Caracas. The Venezuelan government, faced with the consequences of their printing, began arresting bakers. They seized warehouses. They mandated fair prices that were below the cost of production. They tried to use the barrel of a gun to rewrite the laws of supply and demand. But the market is like gravity. You can't ignore it. You can deny it. You can legislate against it, but you cannot escape it. If you jump off a cliff, you will fall. No matter how many laws you pass saying that gravity is a capitalist conspiracy. Voltaire knew this. He knew that paper has no soul. It has no memory. It is only a symbol. And when the symbol is multiplied to infinity, its meaning is divided to zero. The intrinsic value he spoke of is the physical reality of the paper itself. In Venezuela, the bolivar became so worthless that artisans began weaving the bills into handbags and hats to sell to tourists. The currency had more value as a raw material for crafts than as money. In other instances, it was used as toilet paper because it was cheaper than buying actual tissue. This is the ultimate humiliation of a nation. This is the zero. Human nature does not change. The politicians always think, this time is different. They think, we have oil, or we have technology, or we have the moral high ground. They believe they can suspend the consequences. But the cycle has no political bias. It does not care if you are socialist, capitalist, monarchist, or fascist. It only cares about the math. If you dilute the supply, you destroy the value. We are watching a modern nation collide with ancient wisdom at high speed. The wreckage is not just economic, it is spiritual. When money dies, society reverts to a state of nature. The thin veneer of civilization is stripped away, revealing the desperate animal beneath. Voltaire warned us. Rome warned us. Weimar warned us. But we didn't listen. And now, the Venezuelan people are paying the price for a lesson that history has already taught 1,000 times. Now, I want you to pause. Take a breath. I want you to mentally step away from the streets of Caracas. It is easy to look at Venezuela from the comfort of a high-speed internet connection. Perhaps sitting in a climate-controlled room in North America, Europe, or Asia, and view it as a distant tragedy. It is easy to look at the starving crowds and the worthless piles of cash and think, that is terrible, but that is them. That is the third world. That is a corrupt dictatorship. That could never happen here. This thought, "it can't happen here," is the single most dangerous sentence in the human language. It is the same thought the Romans had before the barbarians breached the gates. It is the same thought the wealthy merchants of Weimar Germany had before they were using wheelbarrows to buy milk. It is a psychological shield, a comforting lie we tell ourselves to sleep at night. We believe that because our roads are paved, because our stores are stocked, and because our credit cards still swipe, we are immune to the laws of mathematics. But gravity does not care about your geography, and neither does economics. I want you to turn off the news, which is designed to distract you, and look at your own reality. I want you to look at the cracks in your own ceiling. Do you not see the echoes? Walk into your local grocery store. Pick up a package of goods that you have been buying for 10 years. Look at the weight. Is it lighter? Is the box the same size, but the bag inside is half empty? They call this shrinkflation. It is a clever, deceitful trick. The corporations know you will riot if the price goes up, so they quietly shrink the product instead. This is not a marketing strategy. It is the currency collapsing in slow motion. It is the exact same mechanism as the Roman emperor mixing copper into the silver coin. They are diluting your sustenance because your money is worth less than it was yesterday. Look at the housing market in your city. A generation ago, a single income could support a family, buy a home and a car. Today, two incomes struggle to pay rent for an apartment. Young people, hardworking, educated, driven, are locked out of ownership, destined to be serfs in a modern feudal system. Why? Is it because we forgot how to build houses? No. It is because the money has been broken. When the government prints trillions, that money has to go somewhere. It flows into assets. It flows into real estate. It inflates the prices of the things you need to survive, pushing them just out of your reach. You are running on a treadmill that is speeding up. You work harder, you hustle. You take the second job, yet you feel like you are falling behind. That feeling in your gut, that anxiety that you can't quite name, is the realization that the game is rigged against you. And just like in Venezuela, notice the gaslighting. When you complain that gas is too expensive, or that meat is a luxury, what do the leaders tell you? Do they admit they printed too much money? No. They tell you it is transitory. They tell you it is corporate greed. They tell you it is supply chain issues. They tell you it is because of a war on the other side of the world. They will blame the weather, the geopolitical climate, the unions, the billionaires. They will blame anything and anyone except the printing press in the basement of the central bank. They are managing your perception while your purchasing power bleeds out. We are not at the terminal stage like Venezuela, yet. We are not eating out of garbage trucks, yet. But the symptoms are there. The fever is rising. The path we are on is the same path they walked. We are just a few miles behind them on the same road. So, I have a question for you, and I want you to answer it truthfully. Look around your own neighborhood. Do not tell me what the government statistics say. Do not tell me what the stock market is doing. Tell me what you see with your own eyes. Do you see the for lease signs multiplying in the windows of small businesses? Do you see the homeless encampments growing under the bridges of your wealthy city? Do you see the prices changing on the menu at your favorite diner? Tell me in the comments below. I want you to act as a witness. Report what you are seeing on the ground level in your town, your state, your country. Share the price of milk. Share the rent increases. Share the stories of the cracks forming in your local economy. Because the news will never show you this. The news will keep the camera pointed at the circus, at the celebrity scandals and political theater, to keep you from looking at the fire burning in the basement. We need to build a map of reality, right here in the comments. We need to break the silence. Are we walking into the same trap? Or are you already in it? Ciao ban. Biern t letter 1 edp viern n letter 1 ed9. I dung da nh letter 1 edn d stroke letter 1 b0 letter 1 e3c ph letter 1 e7n5. Day th letter 1 f1c s letter 1 f1 lacao trio climax dung engia. B letter 1 e1n kong ch letter 1 ec9 mo t letter 1 e3 s letter 1 f1 s letter 1 e5 pdo. B letter 1 e1n dang th letter 1 f1ch I letter 1 ec7, nm letter 1 ed9 tcu letter 1 ed9 c com and gh, I letter 1 ec7, mt letter 1 ed thigh autopsy. Lernm letter 1 ed9 tqu letter 1 ed1 c gia. Gi letter 1 ecd, ng van letter 1 edf, ph letter 1 e7n ni chuy letter 1 ec3, nt letter 1 eb, c letter 1 e3nh, baosang fong quy letter 1 ebft, l letter 1 e1 and h long. Tan and h letter 1 ebn vad d letter 1 e9 t code. D stroke letter 1 eb7c by it. Vi letter 1 ec7c b letter 1 e1n do a vow hin letter 1 e3nh bodgons. Q a hang bond d stroke letter 1 ed3 and h letter 1 edp call. Vadarian gap. Rung theorng and letter 1 b0 letter 1 edb c d stroke letter 1 ed9 c. Ma and g letter 1 b0 letter 1 edd. Id kubanqua. Lam cho cow chuy letter 1 ec7, ntr letter 1 edf nairn c letter 1 ef1c, k letter 1 ef3, th letter 1 ef1c, t letter 1 ebf, vadao long. Thought kh letter 1 ecf, I li thuy letter 1 ebft ko con. D letter 1 b0 letter 1 edb, I de la ph letter 1 e7n ch letter 1 ec9 and h. S letter 1 ed, avap ph letter 1 e3n, h letter 1 ed3, I chi t, I letter 1 ebft cho ph letter 1 e7n5. The climax. 1. Ph letter 1 e3n, h letter 1 ed3, I t letter 1 ed5ng, th letter 1 ec3. T letter 1 eb, ng letter 1 ef, d stroke letter 1 eft gia. Vi letter 1 ec7 cs letter 1 ed d letter 1 e5 and gt letter 1 eb necrotized hoi tu thay vi failed that by lam letter 1 ed9 t l letter 1 ef1 a ch letter 1 ecdn theorn tie. No ch letter 1 ec9 s letter 1 ef1 ch letter 1 ebft chalk lan r letter 1 ed9 and g vacong th letter 1 ec3 d stroke letter 1 ea3 o and guok. Tin cham bi letter 1 ebf m irony. B letter 1 e1 n chi thok r letter 1 e5 t t letter 1 ed1 t s letter 1 ef1 t r letter 1 edb true. M letter 1 ed9 t ch letter 1 ebf d stroke letter 1 ed9 ch letter 1 ed1 and g m letter 1 ef9 l letter 1 ea1 is letter 1 ed1 and g nh letter 1 edd d stroke letter 1 ed3 and g dola. My m letter 1 ed9 tqu letter 1 ed1 c g a d letter 1 e7 u m letter 1 ecf L letter 1 ea1 I. Kong ko zang. De lan h letter 1 ef and g ngh letter 1 ecbch. Li gay s letter 1 ed1 c cho ng letter 1 b0 letter 1 edd I zem. C letter 1 ea5 u truck L letter 1 eb7p repetition. D stroke O letter 1 ea1 n. Because there is no T letter 1 ea1 O ra and H letter 1 ecbp D stroke I letter 1 ec7 u d letter 1 ed3 n dap. Mo ph letter 1 ecf and g vong zoe di x u letter 1 ed1 n g c letter 1 e7 I n letter 1 ec1 n kin t r letter 1 e5 t h I letter 1 ec7 u q u letter 1 ea3 cho g I letter 1 ecd n g doc 2 ch letter 1 ec9 and h s letter 1 ed a chi t I letter 1 ebft line by line editing. NG letter 1EF FOP and T letter 1EB, V letter 1EF1NG, grammar and vocabulary. Dong, the revolution has not just failed. It has necrotized. PH letter 1E3N Hoi, TUY letter 1EC7 T Voy. GI letter 1EF Nguyen. Dong, the butterfly effect is now complete. G letter 1E3 IY. B letter 1E1N Da and H letter 1EFC, D stroke letter 1EBFN butterfly. Effect letter 1EDF, PH letter 1E7N Tom, T letter 1EFT D stroke, letter 1EA7 U time. VI letter 1EC7C, NH letter 1EFC, L letter 1EA1, I letter 1EDF Day T letter 1EA1, OS letter 1EF1, K letter 1EBFT, N letter 1ED1, IT letter 1ED1T, callback. Dong, walk the streets of Caracas today. You will see a bifurcated reality. G letter 1E3 IY, T letter 1EB bifurcated, fan in hand / tac doi hoi H letter 1ECDC thuet. Thay th letter 1EBF, Tai Chan. You will see a fractured reality. Thuk T letter 1EBF, B letter 1ECB gay VO, HO letter 1EB7, CGI letter 1EF, Ngayon N letter 1EBF, UB letter 1E1N, MU letter 1ED1, NG, I letter 1ECD, NG Van Ngi Fan. Tich Han. Toy S letter 1EBDG, I letter 1EF, Ngayon B letter 1E3N, G letter 1ED1C, Vi no Chin Zak. Hin letter 1E3NH, and D letter 1EF, LI letter 1EC7 U imagery and data. Dong, round and round it goes. The snake eating its own tail. PH letter 1E3N Hoi. De la Hin letter 1E3NH our Roberos, BUT letter 1B0 letter 1E3, NG Con, R letter 1EFN, C letter 1EFN Duoi. No T letter 1B0 letter 1E3, NG Trung, Cho Vong LU letter 1EA9, NQU letter 1EA9, N Votan. R letter 1EA5T Man. Dong, are walking across the jungle of the Darien Gap. Lu Y, de la Kai Ti letter 1EBFT, R letter 1EF5T Dat. Darien Gap la de stroke letter 1ECB, a NG letter 1E5C, TR letter 1E7N Giant de stroke letter 1ED1, IV letter 1EDB, ING letter 1B0 letter 1EDD, IDCU. VI letter 1EC7C, NH letter 1EFC, D stroke letter 1EBFN, no Cho TH letter 1EF5Y, S letter 1EF1TUY letter 1EC7T V letter 1ECDNG Kunkuk. 3. Van B letter 1EA3N Da CH letter 1EC9NH, S letter 1ED, of the polished version. D letter 1B0 letter 1EDB, I de la Fierne B letter 1EA3N Han Thien. Toy Datin, CH letter 1EC9NH, Cock D letter 1EF5, Ukao Vat in D stroke letter 1EADM Cock, T letter 1EB Koa D stroke letter 1EC3 T letter 1ED1. I Uhoa H, I letter 1EC7 UQU letter 1EA3, C letter 1EA3M Zuck. Part 5, the climax. We have now reached the convergence. The verdict on the Venezuelan experiment is in, and it is absolute. We are no longer dealing with warnings, or theories, or political debates. We are staring at a corpse. The revolution has not just failed, it has necrotized. To understand the magnitude of this collapse, you must understand that this is not a simple recession. This is the total disintegration of a modern nation-state. It is a phenomenon that historians usually only see after a devastating war. Yet Venezuela has been destroyed without a single foreign bomb being dropped. The mechanism of this death is a terrifying engine called the doom loop. Let's look at the engine of this machine, the oil. For decades, the black blood of the earth was the only thing keeping the patient alive. But today, the heart has stopped beating. PDVSA, once the envy of the corporate world, is a ruin. The refineries are rusting skeletons. The pipelines are leaking. The skilled hands that knew how to extract the heavy crude are driving taxis in Madrid or scrubbing floors in Miami. The irony is biblical. Venezuela sits atop the largest oil reserves on the planet, more than Saudi Arabia, yet its people queue for days to buy gasoline. They are starving in a golden cage. The state has cannibalized its own cash cow. They stopped maintaining the pumps to pay for the rallies. They stopped fixing the drills to buy loyalty. And now, when they desperately need the oil to save them, the machinery stands silent. This is the physical collapse. But the financial collapse is even more grotesque. The butterfly effect is now complete. That first decision to print unbacked money decades ago has mutated into a monster that devours reality. We are witnessing hyperinflation that requires scientific notation to measure. The bolivar is no longer a currency, it is confetti. It is trash. And here lies the ultimate humiliation. The final twist of the knife for the anti-imperialist regime. The only thing keeping the population from total extinction is the currency of their enemy, the US dollar. Walk the streets of Caracas today. You will see a bifurcated reality, a schizophrenia of economics. On one side, you have the bodegones, luxury shops filled with Nutella, imported whiskey, and flat-screen TVs, where everything is priced in dollars. This is for the elite, the connected, the ones who have access to foreign currency. On the other side, just outside the glass windows, you have the multitude scavenging for scraps, holding bolivars that dissolve in their hands. The government, which spent 20 years cursing the Yankee Empire, has been forced to allow the dollar to take over. They have capitulated. The market has conquered the ideology. The bolivar is the official currency of the state. But the dollar is the currency of the street. The government has lost the most essential power of a sovereign nation, the power to define value. This is the verdict. But the most painful statistic is not the inflation rate. It is not the GDP. It is the human hemorrhage. The climax of this tragedy is the exodus. Over 7 million Venezuelans have fled. That is not migration, that is an evacuation. It is 20% of the population. Doctors, teachers, engineers, mechanics, the very people needed to rebuild the country, are walking across the jungle of the Darien Gap, risking death in the mud, just to escape the paradise built by Chavez and Maduro. They are voting with their feet. Every single one of those refugees is a testament to the failure of the system. Every child crossing a border is a casualty of an economic war that the government waged against its own logic. The social contract has been shredded. The state promised to take care of everyone from cradle to grave. Instead, it has dug the grave and left the people to fall into it. The mechanism of the collapse is now self-sustaining. Because there is no trust, there is no investment. Because there is no investment, there is no production. Because there is no production, there is nothing to buy. Because there is nothing to buy, the prices go to infinity. And because the prices are infinite, the government prints more money. Round and round it goes, the snake eating its own tail. This moment, right now, is the breaking point. The infrastructure has crumbled beyond simple repair. The power grid flickers like a dying candle. The water systems are dry. The illusion of control is gone. Maduro sits in the palace, issuing decrees that nobody follows, ruling over a kingdom of ash. The free lunch that was promised in the 1990s has finally presented its bill. And the cost is everything. The cost is a lost generation. The cost is the complete destruction of the future for the sake of the present. This is what happens when you let the monster grow. It does not stop until it has consumed everything. Cheo ban. Biern till letter 1 e p viern, n letter 1 e d9, I dung day. Chuck m letter 1 e b and g ban. Chung ta da die d stroke letter 1 e b f n ditch. Ph letter 1 e 7 n 6. The philosophical conclusion lam letter 1 e d9 t, kai k letter 1 e b f t, han h letter 1 e a3, o cho, han trin d stroke letter 1 e a7 y, c letter 1 e a3 m zuckne. No kong ch letter 1 e c9, tom l letter 1 e a1. iv letter 1 e a5n, d stroke letter 1 e c1, makwan tr letter 1 e cd and g han. No trao cho con g, I letter 1 e a3 quin, nang han dong agency. Sao kai kh, I letter 1 e bf. nh letter 1 e cd, s letter 1 e 3 high letter 1 e df cock, ph letter 1 e 7 n truok. B letter 1 e 1 n da cho, h letter 1 e cd, m letter 1 e d9 tch, I letter 1 e bf. C la band d stroke letter 1 e c3 thalot kh letter 1 e cf, I con bow. D letter 1 b0 letter 1 e db. I day la ph letter 1 e 7 n ch letter 1 e c9 nh. S letter 1 e ed. Ava ph letter 1 e 3n. H letter 1 e d3. I c u letter 1 e d1. I con. 1. Ph letter 1 e 3n. H letter 1 e d3. It letter 1 e d5ng. Th letter 1 e c3. Chuy letter 1 e c3, and d stroke letter 1 e d5, I tongjung. B letter 1 e 1 n da chuy letter 1 e c3, and t letter 1 e bg, I letter 1 e cd, and g d stroke, I letter 1 e c7 u fong, s letter 1 e f1 d stroke, I letter 1 e c1 u tra. Fan 1 to 5 sang g, I letter 1 e cd, and g d stroke, I letter 1 e c7 u and guoy. C letter 1 e d1, v letter 1 e a5n. KH letter 1 EAFCKY, Stoic Mentor. R letter 1 EF5T, M letter 1B0, letter 1 E3 TMA. Hin letter 1 EA3 NH, D stroke letter 1 ED1 I lap. S letter 1 EF1 So San G I letter 1 EF. A LU letter 1 EADT Sulai Taxi, VATH letter 1 E3, May S letter 1 ED. A Z la Vi D letter 1 E5, D stroke letter 1 EFT GA. NH letter 1 EF5T, Trong D stroke O letter 1 EA1 NA. No Favi letter 1 E1 letter 1 EA3, OT letter 1 B0 letter 1 EDF, NGV letter 1 EC1, B letter 1 EB1 NG, C letter 1 EF5P, Vatan Vin K letter 1 EF9 Nang TH letter 1 EF1C T letter 1 EBF, M letter 1 ED9T Thong D stroke, I letter 1 EC7 P C letter 1 EF1C, M letter 1 E1 NH, Trong B letter 1 ED1 I, C letter 1 EA3 NH, KH letter 1 E7 NG Home, Tin TH letter 1 EF1C TE. B letter 1 E1 N Duara G I letter 1 EA3, I FOP, C letter 1 E5, TH letter 1 EC3, Assets, Skills, Community. Thay Vi CH letter 1 EC9, Noi NH letter 1 EF and G, L letter 1 EDD, I Sao Wrong. 2. CH letter 1 EC9 and H, S letter 1 ED, Akai TI letter 1 EBFT, line by line editing. NG letter 1 EF FOP and Van Fong, grammar and style. Dong. They were told that the state would be their father, their mother, and their provider. PH letter 1 EA3 N Hoi. Koch LI letter 1 EC7 T care Nai T letter 1 EA1. ONH letter 1 ECBP D stroke. I letter 1 EC7 UR letter 1 EF5 T T letter 1 ED1 T. Rule of 3. Dong. When the ship starts to sink, the captains will be the first ones in the lifeboats. Lu Y. Thong TH letter 1B0 letter 1 EDD. NG Tahe Engi Thian TR letter 1B0 letter 1 EDF. NG Chim Kung Tao. Nhung letter 1 EDF. De B letter 1 E1 N D stroke letter 1 EA3. ONG letter 1B0 letter 1 E3. C no D stroke letter 1 EC3 CH letter 1 EC9. S letter 1 EF1, Hen N hat slash it K letter 1 EF7, C letter 1 E7, a G I letter 1 EDB. I tin ho a chin try. R letter 1 EF5 T tham thigh. Dong. Perhaps the digital scarcity of Bitcoin. PH letter 1 EF3 N hoi. VI letter 1 EC7 C therm T letter 1 EB, perhaps, Lam letter 1 ED9 T, N letter 1 B0 letter 1 EDB, C di thong min. No G up B letter 1 E1N D stroke letter 1 EC1, C letter 1 EADP D stroke letter 1 EBFN T, I letter 1 EC1 N Mahoa, M letter 1 ED9 T, CH letter 1 E7 D stroke letter 1 EC1, Gay Tran Kai Makong T letter 1 ECF Rakwa Op, D stroke letter 1 EB7 T Hey, C letter 1 EF1 C Don. GI letter 1 EF D stroke letter 1 B0 letter 1 E3 CTH, I letter 1 EC7, N C letter 1 E3M C letter 1 E7, a C letter 1 E3 NG letter 1 B0 letter 1 EDD, I letter 1 E7 NG, H letter 1 ED9 L letter 1 EABN, NG letter 1 B0 letter 1 EDD, I Hai Ngai, C letter 1 EA5 U truck, and an H letter 1 EA5N, M letter 1 E1 and H. Toy S letter 1 EBD in D stroke letter 1 EADM3, TR letter 1 E5 C letter 1 ED9 TG, I letter 1 EA3 IFAP. Hard assets. Competence. VAC community D stroke letter 1 EC3, NG letter 1 B0 letter 1 EDD. I doc slash Nguye Zem D letter 1 EC5 Dang Guy NH letter 1 EDB. Takeaways. 3. Van B letter 1 EA3N da CH letter 1 EC9 NH, S letter 1 ED, of the polished version. De la Fierne B letter 1 EA3N, Han CH letter 1 EC9 NH, C letter 1 EE7, a PH letter 1 EA7N cat. Da D stroke letter 1 B0 letter 1 E3 CT letter 1 ED1, I U Hoa NH letter 1 ECBP D stroke, I letter 1 EC7 U Cho L letter 1 EDD, I bin, voiceover. Part 6. The philosophical conclusion. The tragedy of Venezuela is not an anomaly. It is not a freak accident of history that occurred in a vacuum. It is a mirror. When we look at the ruins of Caracas, at the empty shelves and the worthless paper, we are not looking at a foreign land. We are looking at a reflection of human nature when it is seduced by the easy path. We are seeing what happens when a society chooses comfortable lies over hard truths, year after year, until the truth finally arrives to collect its debt. And the truth is this: you cannot print wealth. You cannot legislate prosperity. You cannot cheat reality. The Venezuelan people did not wake up one morning and decide to destroy their country. They were led there step by step by the siren song of free. They were told that the laws of economics were flexible. They were told that the state would be their father, their mother, and their provider. They traded their liberty for security. And in the end, they lost both. So, what are you to do? You, listening to this right now. You feel the tremors in your own economy. You see the debt mounting. You see the currency debasing. You sit in fear. You wait for a politician to save you. No. That is the path of the victim. The lesson of history is that the state will always look after itself first. When the ship starts to sink, the captains will be the first ones in the lifeboats, and they will leave you to bail out the water with a sieve. You must accept a hard philosophy: no one is coming to save you. But this realization should not terrify you. It should liberate you. If no one is coming to save you, then you are free to save yourself. You must become the architect of your own survival. How? By decoupling. You must decouple your life from the fragility of the system. You must build a personal citadel that can withstand the storm of the cycle. First, look at your labor. If you are trading your time for a currency that is melting like ice, you are running a race you cannot win. You must find an anchor. You must own things that cannot be printed by a bureaucrat in a basement. History has shown us what survives when paper burns: hard assets, gold, silver, land, commodities. Perhaps the digital scarcity of Bitcoin. These are things that have no counterparty risk. They do not rely on a government promise. They simply are. They are the arcs that float when the floodwaters of inflation rise. Second, you must stockpile the only true wealth that exists, competence. In a collapse, your bank account may go to zero. But your skills stay with you. Can you build? Can you repair? Can you grow food? Can you heal? Can you organize? The Venezuelan lawyer driving a taxi in Lima is tragic, but the Venezuelan mechanic fixing engines in Bogotá is surviving. Why? Because he has a skill that is tangible, immediate, and immune to inflation. The market will always pay for solutions. Become a person who solves problems in the physical world. Third, and perhaps most importantly, you must build community. The rugged individualist dies in a collapse. The community survives. Look at your circle. You trust your neighbors. You have a network of people who share your values. In the darkest days of the Venezuelan crisis, it was not the government rations that kept people alive. It was the networks of family and friends trading favors, sharing food, and protecting each other. Trust is the ultimate currency. Accumulate it now, while things are relatively calm. We are living through a turning of the age. The era of easy money, of peace and plenty financed by debt, is ending. The bill has come due. The tremors you feel are the shifting of tectonic plates. You cannot stop the earthquake. But you can build a house that is earthquake-proof. Do not be the person who says, "I didn't think it could happen." Be the person who says, "I saw it coming and I was ready." History is a brutal teacher. It punishes the blind with poverty, with hunger, with chaos. But it rewards the prepared with opportunity. It rewards those who have the eyes to see the invisible threads and the courage to act on what they see. The verdict on Venezuela has been read. The verdict on your own economy is currently being written. Do not wait for the final sentence to be spoken. By then the exits will be closed. Make your move. Secure your sovereignty. Prepare your mind, because the cycle does not stop. It only turns, and it is turning right now.